What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi here with my man Eric Sheets. Haber. Hope you're all having a good Friday. We're back together. We haven't had that many shows together this week. Or the last couple weeks, we've been sort of all over the place and had a few of them. I didn't have a great night last night on the small slate. I tried to get different in some of the ways we talked about, but it didn't pay off. Sheets, did you do anything? And tell me.
Yeah, I actually did okay. I played Keller actually.
I did do that. That was one good thing.
And I hit some of the Atlantas when they came through. I made about not much. I mean like 15% of my money, but it's better than losing. Yeah, not bad. So just a kind of a couple of PSAs, right? So first of all, football, we are really close. I already put my first NFL sheets up there. I know Bobby and Rody are going to be doing videos pretty soon about, and Rody himself has some stuff that he wants to put up there. So we're gonna get you guys some materials, and I'm gonna put up a video of how to use my sheets and how to upload stuff and things like that. In addition to that, I mean, it's like it's gonna be a full DGen Saturday tomorrow for me. I'm gonna be at the wineries, right, with Mrs. Sheets. So I'm gonna be drunk and I'm gonna have probably sweats in probably 10 sports. There's tomorrow there's gonna be LOL, MMA, baseball, tennis, NASCAR, soccer,
and
probably horse racing, you know what I mean, and golf, you know what I mean? So all kinds of stuff going on. I don't know if I'm gonna have time to do freaking football this season, but
that's crazy, man. That's pretty crazy your schedule. I haven't had anything.
But so I'm continuing to upload as much stuff as possible, stay on top of everything, and I'm really enjoying doing it. I wish I did a little bit. Maybe it's another conversation, but I really do wish I did a better job being more in the community. I think that when I'm in there, I'm okay, but I only so many hours in a day.
Yeah, dude, you got a lot of stuff going on. We understand it.
I also think I want to do a little bit better job with the videos. But that's for another conversation.
Yeah, we'll get that to it. We'll get that.
Okay. All right. You want to get started with baseball? So I got my 1200. By the way, my mega satellite today. So I'm in the 1200. That's that ticket I won.
Nice.
So I want to win that.
Nice. I'm just I hope you win that, and I hope I win the other one, and I'll have a good day.
Sounds good.
All right, let's pull up your screen and we'll go game by game here. It's a big slate, obviously, it being a Friday. DraftKings is not doing anybody any favors and making Atlanta any cheaper. I mean, I'm making Atlanta any more expensive. It's really frustrating to me that they just won't get it together with this. It makes the game a little bit less fun. But there are still other ways to get different. So let's get into it, starting off with the first game. We've got Hill and Nolan. I actually think you can make a case for Rich Hill here at 6,500. He just put up 20 against these guys. I see a similar type outing, maybe not the longest leash, but the strikeout upside is decent. And I also could see a case being made for the Mets hitters, specifically Pete Alonso. That's my entire interest level in this game. And when I say a little interest in Rich Hill, I'm talking about probably around 10% or so. I don't think I want to get more involved than that.
I have a relatively small pitchers pool today, and neither Rich Hill nor Sean Nolan are on it, so I'm just not getting there. With respect to the hitting, I do have the Mets as kind of almost as kind of tied for one of the top options on FanDuel actually.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I have 5 teams on FanDuel that I like, and it's not like I have one standout, so which I guess is good if Atlanta is going to be really popular. On DraftKings, though, see, the way I have it on DraftKings, I have 2 teams that are kind of tied for my top, and then just so many freaking teams that I could use as my next best ones. And I think Washington and the Mets are just right in that mix. So we'll see how chalky I end up at pitching, but I have no problem trying to sprinkle in a Mets or a Washington if I get there.
Yeah, I like the idea. I don't think the Washington thing is for me at all. Rich Hill is one of the best prop bets of the day. I think is Rich Hill over 4.5 strikeouts. I mean, he just struck out 8 of these guys in 5 innings the other day. The strikeout rate here is perfect for him, and there's no reason he should have 4.5 K prop. But on top of that, I personally don't, I don't know about these teams going off on a giant slate, but I do think the Mets mini stack, specifically Baez and Alonso, with maybe you could include Pilar and Lindor if you want to. I think is a really interesting thing to do. So, but especially it's mostly just Alonso and Baez for me.
Yeah, he's Alonso's under 5K.
Alonso's under 5K. Baez has a great history versus lefties, and I don't know what's happening with him this year, but or since he's got to the Mets, but whatever, it is what it is.
Him and Bobby Bonilla, two of them.
Baltimore, New York. Are you thinking is Cortez one of your guys?
Yeah. So Cortez is one of my guys, one of my second, SP2s or whatever you want to call him. He is one of my 5 pitchers that I have in there. And in addition to that, on FanDuel, I have the Yankees as one of my top 5, one of those 5 teams I want to play. And I have the Yankees on DraftKings. Again, it's just not a top play, but a secondary play. And I'm not going to force them in or whatever. But if I get to them, I'll get to them.
Yeah, I'm not going to force the Yankees in today. I do think that the individual, like it's hard to ignore the Stanton, Voit, Judge part of the stack. So I would say they're probably a mini stack for me, and that's because of how bad Baltimore's bullpen is. On the flip side, though, I actually think I have more interest in Means than I do in Cortez.
Okay.
He finally looked like he's back to himself a little bit in his last start. Oddly enough, I feel like it might be good for him to be outside of Baltimore. He's another one of the best K props on the slate. He's got a 4.5 K prop. I don't want to guarantee anything because obviously guys can get hit around, but I think it's a ridiculous number. I think it could easily be 2 strikes higher. It really could against this Yankees team. So I like Means a little bit, sort of in the same mold as Rich Hill. Not the most exciting play, but for large field tournaments, I think it is interesting, and I do like that 4.5 K prop. If you can get over on that, I think it's a good move. But I will have some Stanton, I will have some Voit, I will have some Judge, but it will not be a full stack for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about this Cortez character. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm going to play him. I might in some tournaments, but I'm not my satellite, not my big buy-in. I got other ideas for that.
Yeah, I understand. The thing with Cortez that I have an issue with is it's the same issue other than Robbie Ray and some extreme strikeout guys. I mean, we saw Steven Matz pitch a couple times against Baltimore with no strikeout efficiency. We saw Ryu, pitch well against them and still only have, I think, 4 strikeouts in 6 innings. They just don't strike out as much against lefties unless those lefties are dominant strikeout lefties. And while Cortez is a good pitcher, I don't think that this is what I want to do. I just don't think it's what I want to do. I don't even mind, by the way, they're not as cheap as they normally are, but we do have Austin Hayes, who I think is a value guy who I've got listed today at 2.9K. And one of these days, Jamal Jones is going to surprise us and be at the top of the order. If he was in the top of the order at 2K, I would take a shot. It's not going to happen yet. Mateo, the same thing. They're playing these young guys and they're going to give them some chances. So I don't think I'll get to Mountcastle and Mancini because the position is strong, but I think there is some argument for some Baltimore bats here. But all right, let's talk about Toronto and Oakland. This is an interesting one. Are people really not going to play Alek Manoah?
Okay, so what I was going to say is this. I was going to say
Sean Manaea?
No. What I was going to say is, why am I not playing Alek Manoah? Like the exact same thing that you said. I mean, I can't come up with a really good reason why I don't want, you know what I mean? So I'm probably going to have to consider it. He's not going to, I don't know what's going on with some of these projection models or whatever. They don't like him for some reason. I can't imagine why not. I mean, he certainly has good upside as well. And I don't know, maybe this is one of those where just all the projection models are wrong. It's very possible.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily need to play any pitcher against kind of maybe a resurgent Toronto team. I don't know.
When did they resurge? When did I miss that?
Yeah, I think he did. They had a resurgent game.
They had 5. They scored 5 runs off. They scored actually 3 or 4 runs off of
the Baltimore bullpen.
And 6 and like 2 runs off the bullpen. No, but they only had 5 runs in the game.
They had 5 runs against Harvey and the bullpen. You're not excited about that?
Yeah, it doesn't get me overwhelmingly excited.
Yeah, maybe Manaea might play again. I just have other options. And I don't know why I didn't get to any of the hitting here either. Did I just miss this game somehow? Why don't you talk about this game? I didn't get to any of the hitting or either the pitch.
I'm not playing the hitting. My initial thoughts would be to take the under, but then we've seen Manaea struggle lately. Poor guy has been having some tough matchups though. Although he did struggle against Texas in a pretty soft matchup, and he struggled against Cleveland, who struggled against lefties. So I don't really he's really fading apart, but he's better than a 7.7K pitcher. So only for a large field multi-entry would you can play him, I think, but you definitely would consider him in those formats at 7,700. I mean, he's a guy who could put up a 30 at 7,700. He could also very likely put up another one of those fives that he's been putting up. But I'm telling you, I mean, with watching this Toronto team, I have no more. They're great hitting. They're going to be fine in the long run. I just have no interest in stacking this team against a good pitcher right now. And Manoah is definitely high on my board. I don't know why. I do think that the over on his 5.5 Ks are also an incredible K prop bet. Why are we betting under 5.5 Ks on this guy? Like, he's had one start, basically 2 starts that he didn't get over, and you have an Oakland team that actually will strike out. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, I mean, I just think that I like Manoah. That's where I stand currently in this game. In general, I think the Oakland offense is solid, but they do strike out. They've got some strikeouts in that lineup. So I'm kind of a fan of Manoah early on. You know, of the pitchers we've talked about so far, he's the one I can get the most behind.
Okay.
All right. You ready to talk? Why don't you start us off with Detroit, Cincinnati?
Well, you know, it's funny because the next one I had on my list was Cleveland, Boston, and I was going to say that I had no interest in anything from that game.
Okay.
Do you want me to do I?
I'll go to Cleveland. I'll go to Cleveland, Boston. I am not going to play Nathan Eovaldi at 9,800, even though he's been very solid. I don't particularly want to stack against him. Cal Quantrill was one of the best pitchers in baseball last month. I don't know who won pitcher of the month, but he certainly was right in the hunt for it. He was really, really, really good consistently. He's not a guy I'm going to use for DFS. I'm not talking about that. I'm just thinking of, you know, why not to play Boston here. And that's the reason. I think Quantrill's just been solid enough in real life. Now, at the same time, I'm never going to argue with a Boston stack at home ever. Against the guy who I still think is just an adequate pitcher. So, but they're not high on the list for me. So I'm sort of with you. I don't really have a whole lot from this game.
All right. I'll start with the Cincinnati Detroit. So I don't have any of the pitching. I didn't get to Gires. I didn't get to this other combination of things. But I have the Reds basically tied with Atlanta as the top stack on DraftKings. That's where I'm at with that of all these other teams. So I have them basically tied. And on FanDuel, likewise, I think I might have them the best on FanDuel. So that's where I'm at. I think the Reds are my favorite overall. I'm sure that it's going to be not earth-shattering either, but that's where I am, and none of the pitching. And Detroit, by the way, I have them as just on the outside looking in on FanDuel as my as kind of a value thing, which I probably, as usual, don't have to get to. So for me, it's going to be pretty much all the Reds, and that's about it.
Yeah. I also think that, again, I'm going to mention all these K props again, but I like Gutierrez's K prop at 5.5 too. I think he's got a chance to have a good game here. I don't think I'm going to pay 8,500 for him, but I'm open to it. I mean, you get Detroit going to the National League, and I think there's something to be said for maybe taking a shot there. But again, it sort of fits into the long shotty play kind of a thing. I like Cincinnati as well. I think their ownership is going to be pretty high here.
Yep.
And I'm sort of am with it. I think Castellanos is one of the best plays on the board. And I think that, you got Suarez in there, Farmer. They could always, put out a different lineup. You've got guys, that are not getting to play now that are pretty good hitters. And so, there's always maybe some pinch hit risk, but usually you don't care as much if your team's going to go off. So I like Cincinnati. And one guy who won't get played on Cincinnati at all today is going to be Joey Votto. So you can play Joey Votto is what I would say. Yeah,
and I also would like to remind everybody about Aquino at 3,100.
Yep.
And India. I mean, I think the whole team is very strong.
Yep, they'll be popular, but they're definitely good.
And they will.
Yep. Boy, after all these weeks of nobody wanting to play Kyle Gibson, and he just goes out there and pitches a good game every game, pretty much it feels like. He had the one struggle against the Dodgers, but everybody does. He faces Miami, and he's going to be the mega chalk today at 8,100. I'm the guy who always wants to play Kyle Gibson, and I'm okay with him. I don't think this is some automatic lock button play that maybe it seems like other people think it is. He has a 4.5K prop. That's ridiculous for a guy who's going to be chalk at 8,100. I also like the over on both these pitchers' K props. But I mostly, aside from a little bit of interest in both of the pitchers, I don't think there's anything in this game. I probably will be under the field on Gibson, even though I like him.
Yeah, I have Gibson as kind of, as one of the top 5, but nothing, nothing I have to have,
Right.
And if that's where the ownership flows, then I like, look, if for some reason, like all the ownership goes to Gibson and you get somebody like Cortez, whatever, not his own, I would try that.
I think Cortez will be owned too, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like,
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. So yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Gibson looks fine. He's one of my top options, but it's not something that you have to take on a 100-game slate if he's 25% owned plus. So that's where I am. And I didn't get to any of the hitting here.
Yeah, no hitting interest whatsoever for me. I think that if you're playing, 150, you could probably make an argument for some of the Philly bats, even though it's obviously a huge stadium downgrade. Number one would be Andrew McCutchen for me for the price. Bryce Harper always hits well in Miami for whatever reason. But I don't think it's going to be anything we need to do today. Luzardo, I actually like. I think Luzardo is your easy pivot off of Gibson, by the way. I think that there's every bit as he's really talented and finally showed the upside in his last start. So a little bit of interest there, but nothing huge. You have Minnesota Tampa Bay next, right?
I do, and I have a little bit of interest in Tampa. I mean, nothing major. This guy, from what I remember, is kind of sneaky. Like he keeps the ball low, and I mean, I don't know if that's still the case. That's what I remember from him. The Dobnak.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's probably not the greatest stack in the world, but I do have them as just kind of like that whole crew of teams beneath Atlanta and Cincinnati. So I will just kind of mention that. And I did not get to Waka. I did not get to the other one, and I also did not get to the Minnesota bats. You like anything in this game?
I like Tampa, and I love Buxton's going to be the most popular player in my lineups, and it's never going to change. I'm just going to tell you guys right now.
Until he's like 4,500 again. I mean, right?
Until he's like 5K probably. I mean,
yeah, whatever. Yeah.
This is a guy who is every bit as good as all these other guys and everything like that. I don't care. I'll eat a little bit of this stuff. I'm not going to stack them. I don't stack against Tampa Bay in general, but I absolutely will take shots. I will not take shots. I'll play Buxton as a priority, and I'll make sure to get him in. I do like Tampa. I think the way that I would do it is probably you're going to see, your Dobnak used to do that. Lately has been just giving up home runs left and right. I think that like Meadows, Lowe, and Cruz are the best plays, and Arozarena will probably get a little bit lost in the shuffle. So he would be the one who gets it off the board, as would Wander Franco. But they're really expensive. They kind of force you to play like a Kiermaier, but you can play Mejia, who's a decent hitting catcher. The one guy who I don't have, I wouldn't include unless he's in the top 4 in the order is Yandy Diaz, but everybody else in this is completely in play. Tampa is definitely a stack that I can get behind today for sure. All right, Milwaukee and St. Louis. Well, I think Freddie Peralta is an excellent play. I am not going to go ahead. What do you think?
Well, I mean, he's an excellent play if he's going to be let loose, right? Is there any manager speak? Is there anything going on that would indicate that he's
they don't do that in Milwaukee. They just sometimes put their players out. And people were trying to use this argument, oh, Milwaukee doesn't do their players, they're going to just limit Burns and all that. I'm like, well, Burns is playing for a Cy Young. They're not limiting him. You know what I mean?
The only issue I have is that if I'm not mistaken, maybe that they were already kind of shutting Peralta out a little bit.
One game
of pitches. Oh, there was just the one game. Okay,
I believe there's just one game, and he struggled a lot in his last outing against the same team. So you could use that as a reason. I don't think you have to play him or anything. I'm just saying I like him in general. I like the matchup for him. You put a righty heavy matchup against Peralta, I'm always going to have interest. His price is fair. He's, maybe we could argue because he's. It was only a 10-day DL. I have to worry a little. You're right. We should probably worry more in this case about the pitching for him. I guess it was 2 games that he had, but one of the games they were up 12-0, so it was a little bit tricky. to figure out. But and then around those games, he was in the mid 90s again. So I like Peralta. The guy who does have a leash, though, who no one's going to play, is on the other side of this game. And I don't think I'm going to get to him, but 1% on a guy who basically every time puts up 25 to 45 fantasy points feels like
Dude, it really is the ultimate GPP play because first of all, nobody likes playing him anyway.
Right.
And second of all, it's that perfect price. It's like, it's not even 9,900. You know what I mean? Like, it's like 10K. I mean,
Right.
Who the hell is going to play him at 10K?
Right. No one.
Yeah. And listen, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what he's pumping into his system or what he's pumping into his hand or whatever. But the resurgent of Adam Wainwright, just every time nobody plays him, or even when they do, I mean, just puts up 25 fantasy points a game, right?
Yeah.
The guy just keeps on climbing up. And it wasn't too long ago that we were attacking Milwaukee every game.
Mm-hmm.
And with a pretty, I don't want to say fishy Peralta, but with a Peralta with some question marks. I mean, for raw points, I mean, it's kind of raw points are tough to come by in this slate, I think, for pitching. Now that you mention it.
Yeah, I mean, like, just look at the innings this guy pitches: 7, 7, 7, 9, 6, 8, 7. The pitches are there. Oddly, the only team that he's struggled with is Milwaukee, so you could use that as a reason. But I mean, this is a 1% play that I think that if you're playing large field GPPs and you don't have like 10% of on this slate, I think you're making a mistake. But having said that, if I'm just going to play a couple entries, he probably doesn't make it for me. I just think you want to try and force in a little bit of him because we have all these other pitchers that are, the Peralta, the Gibson and all that are a little bit more suspect to me than this play. I actually think Gibson makes a little bit of sense, but like, I don't know. I just think, and again, another K prop bet, like take Wainwright in the over on the 4.5 Ks. I just think you're going to be right so much more often than you're wrong. I'm 5.5 Ks, excuse me. The pitch count he's got a leash. He's been basically he's been at 5 twice in that, 10-game stretch. Other than that, he's been over every single time. I know Milwaukee is a little bit better offensively than they were. I definitely have a little bit of Wainwright interest, and that's pretty much it. Wainwright and Peralta. I'm probably going to be lower than the field, but I do like him. Rowdy Tellez is the only value bet that stands out in this game against Wainwright. He's 2.6K, so that's what I would do if I was going to do anything in this game. Hitting less.
How many home runs is Sal Perez going to hit off Keuchel today?
Why is it that they give Keuchel? Vegas still gives Keuchel the respect. I mean, they do. You'd think that there'd be like a 5-run total after the way he pitched last time out there. Sal Perez is an awesome GPP play. It's really weird to pay 5.9K for anyone, especially a catcher. But this guy, I mean, he really did. What did he homer 6 days in a row or whatever? Like he's got 38 home runs. I mean, yeah, he didn't hit a home run the last 2 days. So there's no way he doesn't hit one today, and I don't know. Like, am I crazy to like a little bit of a KC stack? I don't think so. I mean,
I don't think so at all. I actually think that both these pitchers are somewhat fishy. I'm kind of thinking that the Carlos Hernandez is fishy too. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I don't think anyone's going to play Hernandez, but I do think that the White Sox, being the powerful offense they are, they're a team you want to try and get some bats in because they have a ton of power. Hernandez hasn't really given up much power. No. Has had better control, not great, but better control than we expected to see from him. He's put up some really nice outings.
Maybe that's what you're supposed to do. Maybe you're supposed to play him.
Maybe you are. He's got a 5K prop. He's 5,500. Look, you shouldn't use K-pop props as gospel, but they are decent like indicators. When you see a guy with this like a similar K prop at 5K that the guys who are chalky at 8K are having. I mean, he's got a higher K prop than
he's 5,100, and of the 5 games I just see on his game log, 4 of them I'll take.
Yeah, and the White Sox, while they're a tough offense, there is some strikeouts in that offense. They will chase early in counts also and allow you to work through some quick innings. Although that I'm going to have to get a little. I said it the other night. I called it on air, and he came through for me. And hurt some of my other lineups because, oddly enough, the only people at the top had him was our guy Sheets.
I saw that
2 home runs there.
Well, Carlos Hernandez against the White Sox had 5 innings, 2 hits, 6 Ks.
Yeah,
23 fantasy points, and he's 5,100.
Yeah, I could take a shot there. I mean, and by the way, if you're gonna, let's just say you're playing multiple lineups, it's just a general strategy thing. Try to play, if you're gonna play Carlos, let's say you're gonna play Carlos Hernandez 10% and the Kansas City lineup 10%. I would try to do those in the same lineup. If they get off to like a 5-0 lead or something like that,
Okay.
you have a lot more freedom for the pitcher to not only pitch longer, but to pitch freer and not have to worry about the walk issue and everything like that. He can attack hitters.
Just like this game, man. At the Cubs, they let him pitch 107 pitches because they were up 100-0.
Yep, exactly. So, and they're seeing what they got with him. So I kind of like the Hernandez idea as a low-owned option, and he's really cheap. And, we've been playing these guys at 5K who are, nobodies and never pitched before. We've got some sample on this guy, and he's solid. Like, I mean, at the same time, if you wanted to say, take the flip side of this, I don't think it's out of the question that the White Sox could have a big game here. I think Luis Robert is an excellent play. No one's going to play the White Sox tonight after being mega chalk. And what we said about Perez sort of fits a little bit for Grandal. I always love Abreu and Jimenez, but the cheaper, more reasonable options of Robert, Moncada, and unfortunately, Sheets has taken away my. He's too expensive on DraftKings, but on FanDuel he's super cheap. Those guys are all firmly in play for me, but I don't know how much I'm going to get to. I'll sort of revisit at the end of the show.
Hey, what was the funny business with the Braves lineup yesterday? I heard some. What happened with that?
Nothing. It was a Thursday lineup. Everybody was all.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought that it was like announced like after the game started or something.
No, they were testing Albies out to see if he could stretch it out. They didn't apparently feel like he could.
Okay.
And then they also didn't play Darno, which didn't, he was my favorite catcher, but we all knew that Vogt was going to likely play because usually the Thursday is the day the catchers get a break. And that's what happened.
Okay.
So this is a different one with Atlanta and Colorado, because I want to take a stand somewhere on a lineup on this slate. I think Atlanta's too cheap, and if these ownership I've told you this before a number of times. Senzatella is the exact kind of pitcher I don't want to pick on, because he will look at his games. Most of these are in Coors. He's given up more than one home run in only 2 games out of his last 20, which is especially significant because he's almost always going 6 or 7 innings. He just dominated the Dodgers the other day. That was in LA, but still. I'm not talking about playing Senzatella by any means, but I am definitely not on we just have to stack Atlanta. At the same time, I thought everyone else would be doing that. And I'm looking at early projections, and it kind of makes sense, but they're not really all over Atlanta. You want a guy who can get the ball in the air off of a guy like Senzatella. You want guys like Soler. You want Freeman, obviously, and you want Peterson. But maybe what I'll do is similar to what I tried to do yesterday, is to keep Atlanta reserved for more mini stacks. Because I have enough respect for Senzatella. He's very good. The one guy who should really be owned, and I don't think the early ownerships are right on him, is Travis Darno. I think is one of the premier. It's hard to argue with a really good hitting 4.2K catcher in Coors. But I definitely have some interest in. I have some interest in a mini stack for Atlanta, but probably I'll fully stack him if no one else is going to do it. I have respect for Senzatella though, so my natural inclination is to try and play 1 or 2 of them, maybe 3. I don't think that you need to. I mean, again, I just don't like stacking against him. But at the same time, if no one else is going to do it, I'm always happy to take anything low owned at Coors.
I think your assessment is going to be off. I think the Braves are going to be extremely popular.
What's extremely popular?
Good question, huh?
That's really where,
I mean, I think the stacks, and again, depends on who you use. You can get 15%, 16, 15% ownership out of the stack.
Yeah, that's not crazy.
It's not crazy, but I mean, 15 game slate, right? I mean,
Right, but yeah, 15 game slate, but all 15 game slates are different. This is not one that has like an obvious pivot. I think Soler will be really popular. I think Darno will be really popular. I don't think we know who the outfielder is going to be for them yet, and I think they're going to be late to release their lineup again, which will keep some of the ownership down. And
you like Colorado at all?
A little bit. I think that Trevor Story, and he's not even projected in the lineup. If Hilliard was in the lineup, I think Tapia is supposed to be back, but I always like Hilliard, even though he's bats at the bottom of the order. He's just got a lot of power. It's hard because it looks like a full stack or fade kind of a situation based on their prices and situation. I think Ryan McMahon and Trevor Story would be my favorite two plays, but I don't really like the stack all that much.
Yeah, I actually do. I actually getting them, not that much of it on DraftKings. They're just kind of a secondary piece, but they're definitely one of the top 4 or 5 on FanDuel for me.
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, that's what I'm struggling with on this slate, is that I'm not finding stacks that I feel completely in love with almost anywhere, you know what I mean? And both these pitchers I have enough respect for to not try to pick on them. But, you know, to maybe make a case for Colorado against Noah is that I don't know if he's ever pitched in Coors before, and occasionally can get a little wild. And if you can get a little wild, that's going to open up some opportunities in the stadium like that. It's just, he also, he has pretty good movement on his pitches, and that should probably be nullified a little bit by the elevation. So there's your argument for Colorado. And also they're going to be low. Like, no one's playing Ryan McMahon tonight. No one's playing Tapia tonight. No one's playing Nunez tonight. No, even Blackman after his grand slam, no one's going to play these guys. No one's going to play. Brandon Rogers and Trevor Story should be the only owned Colorado bats, with maybe CJ Cron and Connor Joe getting a little bit of love, but I don't think so. So I kind of like it from just a game theory standpoint to play them.
Okay. Angels against Texas. I have Ohtani as the best pitcher by an extraordinary amount. And it's not new. I mean, you guys are like the highest projected pitcher ever. Every single slate he pitches, I guess. And normally I would say, well, you know, be careful about him as chalk. He gives up a lot of home runs, but this is just this lineup he's facing. I don't know, man. It's going to be tough for me to fade him. What's more interesting is this Glenn Otto business. So I definitely have interest in him at 5K if I need it. I have him as a point per dollar play, just really, really strong. And the Angels are again, there's no Mike Trout, and I have no problem with him either. So I like both the pitchers in this game, and none of the hit.
I like both pitch. I like Ohtani a ton. He's the guy I feel like, it's funny to say safe, but one thing I love about Ohtani, which is really unusual we always talk about how you could take hitters against him. Stacking against him, other than the one time against the Yankees, is probably not a great idea because he doesn't walk anybody. And partly because he doesn't walk anybody, he gives up home runs. Yeah, so you can pick a Texas, a couple Texas cheapos out of here. I mean, Nate Lowe is still in play at 3,300 for me. At Dolis Garcia at 3,400. I love that play. Yeah, off of Buxton. I mean, Garcia's having the kind of year Buxton usually has, and he's 3,400 still. So we could make that argument for him. DJ Peters has shown some power there. So I sort of like the idea of maybe taking a bat against Ohtani if you're not going to play him. And those would be the guys who I like the most. You don't play the Kiner Falefa. You want the power. You can even play Nick Solak because he's got a little bit of pop. And then I like Justin Upton, and I'm going to play Upton and Stassi when they're this cheap. They're two of my favorite value plays on the board. And I think Stassi's a fantastic catching option. I think Upton's a fantastic one-off option. You could include a little 3-man. We know Texas's bullpen isn't very good. They leave Texas, which oddly enough, the Angels is a huge stadium upgrade, a downgrade for them. Jared Walsh is 3,900. I mean, there's some really, really good prices. So I think the Angels to fill out. I keep saying mini stacks because I don't love any of these full stacks, but that's how I've got the slate so far. My favorite full stacks I'll get into at the end of this, but like I'm mostly looking at these teams and going, wow, I really like parts of it, but I don't want the whole thing. If you do the whole thing, though, you can do it really cheap and you can play Marsh. You just can't play Ohtani. It's really hard to stack a team when you're taking out the best player in baseball. But if you play Marsh, Walsh, Stassi, and Upton, even throw Gosselin in there, they could put up 9 runs tonight against Otto in this bullpen. I have some interest in Otto, but doesn't he sort of fit the same sort of category as what we were talking about? Like if we're going to play Otto, why aren't we playing Hernandez? Maybe you say Otto has an easier lineup he's facing. Hernandez has probably better strikeout stuff and a much longer leash. Yeah. But, this guy, it took him to get through 5 innings and he pitched incredible against Houston. But he gave up 2 hits and he only pitched 5 innings and did not give up no runs or anything. that's a lot to ask for. A very fine needle. You're trying to thread that needle. But you know what I'm going to do today for sure is I will have an Otto and Hernandez lineup at somewhere together.
Ooh, how about that?
Because then you could do all kinds of things, and there's no reason these guys can't each get 15 to 20, and that might be good enough because we don't have pitchers out there right now that we're expecting 30 pluses from. All right, this is a weird one. Another weird game. This is a weird slate. How come all the great pitching and stuff, and we get all of it on like smaller slates and weird slates?
I know. And now you got a 100-game slate, and no one's going to score over 20 fantasy points.
No one, exactly. Okay, so Tyler Anderson and Madison Bumgarner, if they were 1,000 each, I would be considering playing both of them. As it stands, I don't know what to do with this game, to be honest with you. Tom Murphy seems like a really good catching option for cheap. I don't think I want to fully stack. I think one of the best plays on the board is Haniger. I should have mentioned that one sooner. You give me Haniger, just always unowned against lefties, and especially one that has question marks still, even though he's been a little bit better of late, meaning the last couple months, but nothing special anyway. Bumgarner, you get a low strikeout lefty against guys like that. There's a chance for Seattle here, but I just don't think I'm going to do it. I'm not going to stack Arizona. I have respect for Anderson. I don't know. I'm not really that interested in this game.
Yeah, not for me. Didn't get to. Well, you know what? I got to a tiny little bit of Seattle on DraftKings, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's what I've got as well. All right, so let's talk about the most important game on the slate. I mean, look, this is the most important game that's been played in baseball this season because these are the two best teams record-wise in baseball, and without a doubt, the best team in baseball, the Dodgers, fighting that, and just finally took the lead in first place, which is a big deal. Not playing the wild card play-in game is a big freaking deal. So I don't think David Price is a very long leash. Otherwise, I would be sitting here talking about stacking San Francisco. I've watched David Price pitch a number of times this year. He gets away with murders. Sometimes he doesn't get away with it. Well, he hasn't given up a ton of home runs because they don't let him pitch long enough. Like he gets hit hard. I honestly have a tiny bit of interest there. I would love to play the Dodgers. They're pricey and they're playing in San Francisco. And I'm just going to check. I'm going to guess the weather is going to be like 7 degrees because it's San Francisco. And for some reason they decided they have to be the coldest place in the history of the world during the summer. Yeah, 59 degrees. It's really hard to play. I mean, it is blowing out, and I know it doesn't affect anything. I think Roth said something that I want to give a little shout out to Roth on that I think he's right about. I think it's something when it gets over 25 miles an hour blowing outwards, it starts to get to be a thing. So maybe if the wind picked up a little bit, but I mean, look, against DeScalfani, who I actually think is a good pitcher, the Dodgers actually profile really, really well against him, but I don't know how long he's going to go. You've got a good bullpen behind him. The Dodgers are crazy pricey. If they were cheap, I would take some shots here. I just don't think I'm going to be able to do it.
Yeah, again, this is just another one that just didn't quite get to. I mean, it's just I think Descalfani is just good enough to keep the Dodgers out of my hitting, and yeah, to be this game is just a pass.
It's a tough slate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get to the last one then. You see Houston versus Arrieta, and if this was the Cubs and Arrieta, I would be very interested in this. But this is in San Diego. This is with the best or second best bullpen in baseball. I am having trouble finding ways, but I think it's probably not a bad idea to get some exposure to Houston and San Diego. They aren't priorities for me, either of them. San Diego's super cheap. Houston's got a good bullpen also. Trent Grisham as a one-off is a terrific play in my opinion. But I don't really know what to do in terms of stacking here. I just don't think it quite works for me to want to stack Michael Brantley, Kyle Tucker. Arrieta's struggled against lefties lately. It early used to be righties. Now lately it's been lefties. You could definitely make a good case for Yordan Alvarez as just being one of the premier spend-ups, but I don't think I really want to fully stack this Houston team in San Diego, losing the pitcher spot, even though their lineup is coming back to life with Bregman back. So I've sort of got this as a blog game as well.
Yeah, I think Tucker could be a decent one-off. I think that Brantley could be a decent one-off, just the lefties or whatever. But I don't have much in this game either. I would like to say, by the way, just didn't want to shortchange that a little bit, just because what my numbers are what they are. I do have San Francisco a little bit, as again, just as that secondary group, like Tampa, Seattle, Detroit, Washington, San Francisco, teams that I would consider under Atlanta, Cincinnati.
Yeah, that's fair. They're cheap also. Like, I mean, the problem is they're cheap and David Price will come out early in the game, and then you're going to have probably Slater and Ruff leave, and they're the guys I'm most interested in outside of maybe Chris Bryant and Posey. I think if you're doing a 4-man stack, that would be a good way to go. But the problem is you're not going to have David Price stick around forever.
Right.
And you've got a good, pretty solid bullpen options behind him. So, and also 50 degree. It's really hard in this midsummer to play these 50+ degree weather games.
Yeah.
This is a day where I'm going to let weather decide a little bit for me, because I feel iffy on some of my stacks. And I think that trying to get a little bit of a weather advantage is a good way to go. So we don't have a ton of weather concerns. There's a little concern in KC. There's a little concern in Colorado, but they're pretty much always, well, not always. There's often a little bit of concern in Colorado. And unfortunately, even what I just said about weather, for this time of year, it's not like there's any place that stands out as being super great. So I'm sort of like trying to figure it out. I think maybe going back to this Mets Nationals situation could be kind of interesting from when we talked about at the beginning, and maybe I want to get a little bit more of that exposure. In summing up, though, I do have the Reds, Tampa Bay, and KC, especially the Reds and Tampa Bay as my probably favorite full man stacks today. And then I love the Atlanta mini, the Angels mini, the Colorado mini, the Mets mini. But maybe the Mets I could extend to a full stack with the way things look. I actually think that might be the thing to do. That might be my third full stack is the Reds, Mets, and
how would you rate your pitchers?
That's really tough. I have Ohtani number 1 right now. It's more of a safety feeling. The other ones I'm going to use a heavy amount are Manoah, Gibson, Peralta, Hernandez, Otto. And then I want some exposure to Gutierrez, Luzardo, Manaea, Means, and Hill. It feels like a good 150 person slate, but I honestly am not going to play that many lineups today. So I'm going to have to tighten that up, and I'll get my ownerships up as I build some lineups and see how they work. So guys, stay tuned for that on TrueDFS.com. Still free for the first month, yada, yada, yada. You guys know the story. It's just hard for me to rank them. I guess Ohtani, then honestly, I still like Manoah. Have you watched this guy pitch, by the way? He gets into a fight with the umpire every game. He's so intense.
Yeah.
I always worry about him getting thrown out, but he's a battler. He's a monster of a human being. I just have a good feeling about him. I guess Ohtani, Manoah would probably be my favorites for upside, because Peralta, we have some concerns. Luzardo probably belongs in that conversation, but Wainwright is expensive. But maybe this is the slate to play Wainwright at 10K.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, Ohtani is my number 1, and then right now Peralta, Otto, Gibson, Cortez, Manoah, or they're battling for that second one. I got to look at Hernandez a little bit more.
Yeah.
But Ohtani's, he's going to be in my main lineup. He's just going to.
Yeah, probably will be for me as well. I don't see myself pivoting away from that, but I did want to say this is a kind of a cool slate, and I think you can play some of the. I think you're right about Atlanta. I think they end up more owned than I'm initially projecting. But other than that, I don't think you should worry too much about any hitter ownerships. I really don't. And I think that there's a couple. I just want to say the bats that really stood out to me: Alonso, Buxton, Soler, Freeman, Baду, Darno, Garcia, Grisham, and Haniger. And then for value, I've got Slater, Ruff, Murphy, Hayes, Aquino, Tellez, Peters, Upton, and Stassi. That's pretty much where I'm at. All right, well, I'll post my stuff on TrueDFS. You can check out Sheets up there. And,
hey, Bobby, once you stop recording, hang in there when I ask you something. All
right. Good luck to everybody out there. We hope to see someone take it down tonight from TrueDFS. And share all your guys' information as we go. I'm trying to stop the recording. There we go. Good luck, everybody.